I'm just like gonna start from a random sentence because I don't want to reread the entire paragraph. You feel?
I mean, go ahead, do it. Do what you love. Do what you believe in. But that's kind of lame.
Well, you're kind of lame. Okay. Did you just guys realize that sick burn that I made? I'm really proud of myself for that.
I wasn't gonna comment on it because it made me feel sad.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool.
I'm stalling. Chris is sobbing. You want me to start reading now?
Yes, fuck feelings.
Alright, I'm ready. Rod, can you please, calm down? I can't hear Rachel tell the story. Has she started yet?
Rod, did you poop your pants?
Okay, Rachel, you may now begin.
Okay. Alright. Let me see. Where did I stop?
Did you even start?
Yeah, I did.
I couldn't tell.
Okay. Okay. So we're kind of worried that the house is causing a lot of distractions. No one knows what happened to Kimberly, and I tell Johnny that. She disappeared. She's gone. So we're heading back to El Paso, and I turn to Johnny and I say, "What the heck does all this mean?" And he says, "I don't know." Now, remember, this is 1980s, early 1980s. Today, this is modern technology. Back when this was something new. Johnny goes, "We got a new light they just brought in, police, and it's like a black light. If you turn the lights off in the room, if you turn the lights off in the room and you turn this light on, if there's blood or anything like it, it will shine purple." And I go, "What do you mean?" And he says, "They can wash it, they can scrape it away, but it still shows purple. They use it a lot today. I want to take that light to that house and see if we can find any blood spills on the inside before they tear it down." And I say, "Well, I'd like to see that. It'd be interesting." And he goes, "Well, we'll do it tonight."
Hey.
Okay. So he gets the officers that are in charge of this light thing, drives up to the house. It's dark. We let him go to the door first. Well, he goes and opens the door, and before he touches the handle, the door opens. He turns around and looks at us, and we go, "Hey, I don't know, man." So he goes inside. Well, all the lights are out, and it's dark. And then he turns this light on. It's really eerie looking. You can only see where the light's shining, and it's got this square looking, almost black and white effect. And the first thing we do is go up the stairs. We're going up these old wooden stairs, shining this light, nothing. We go to Kimberly's parents' room, nothing. Actually, we find 2 drops in the sink. Maybe the dad cut himself shaving. We don't know. And he goes back, and we're going up to the 3rd floor, up in Kimberly's bedroom. We're shining this light, nothing. Now remember, the officer is going in first, then Johnny, then myself. We turned to the corner of the living room, and he turned, and there was nothing. But then he turned into the hallway, into the kitchen, and when he did, the place lit up purple. I mean, there was blood everywhere. It had been spilt on the floor, on the ceiling, on the sides. It was pulled up. It was streaked. It was gross. It was the most god-awful thing I've ever seen. Well, we turned the regular lights on, and the police officers had to start scraping the wooden floors and taking pieces of the brick out. We come to find that there were 4 different types of blood. One type, we didn't even know what it was. We found pieces of human fingernail in the brick, like someone was trying to crawl their way out of there. We found little human shards, little bone shards. I mean, it's awful. It was just terrible. Well, I guess a week or two by, and Johnny and I were talking. They're getting ready to tear the house down. And I say, hey, Johnny, don't you guys have... Back in the 1980s, the occult of devil worshipping was pretty big. And I said, you guys have an officer on duty that's into all that stuff, right? He goes, well, yeah, he investigates most of it. I say, there's something spooky about that house. There's something weird about that house. Why don't you tell him about it? See what he says. Johnny says, why? Well, I don't know, I'm just guessing here. So he calls me at the school and says, hey, I talked to this guy. He was a surgeon, he says. I talked to the surgeon, and I say, what did he say? Well, I'll come by and tell you. All right, fine. So Johnny comes by the school, and he gets this weird look on his face, and I say, what's wrong, Johnny? Well, I talked to that guy. What did he say? Well, he said that the three of us are just to spend the night there. I say, oh, that's cool. Johnny says, no, not that cool, man. Come on, Johnny. You don't really believe that stuff. Yes, I do. I want to go. Johnny, come on. You're cops. I'll bring a poker killing gun, okay? So we went up on the weekend, all night. We walk into the house and there's 2 couches there, and Sarge brought his own little cot. So we sat up, we played poker all night. And did we hear noises? Sure. But you know what? All houses make noises. Especially in the Southwest, okay? The soil's soft, you hear bricks settling, you hear wood settling, we hear noises, sure, but nothing weird. Listen to your house, you'll hear noises too. Well, I guess it was, I don't know, about midnight or something we crashed out, and for some reason I woke up at 2 or 3, I don't know. The surgeon was sitting up on his cot, and he was looking at me. I say, Sarge, what's up? He goes, listen, I didn't hear anything. He goes, shh, listen. I say, Sarge, I can't hear anything. He goes, listen. Sarge, I don't hear anything. He goes, I got to go up there and check it out. Hold on, I'll check Johnny. He goes, no. I got to go by myself. Are you sure? He goes, yes, I have to go by myself. He takes his little flashlight and I see him walking up the stairs. I hear him walking around. He's walking around on the 2nd floor. It's quiet. Then I hear more steps. He's going up the 3rd floor. I can barely hear him walking around, and it's real quiet. I'm listening, and I can't hear anything. It's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I fall asleep. Next thing you know, I wake up and it's light outside. I'm like, whoa. I look down and Sarge's not there. Johnny, wake up. What's wrong? I say. So, the Sarge ain't here. Well, where's he at? I don't know. He woke up in the middle of the night. He heard noises, and that he had to check it out. Why didn't you go with him? I tried to wake you up. He said no. He said he had to go by himself. He said a few words that I can't say here, and we went upstairs. We never found that surgeon. 4 years ago, one of my friends taped it on Unsolved Mysteries, the story about the wife of the surgeon trying to find her husband. I think later on in the story you may find out what happened to him. Well, now it's big time trouble. They're really investigating this house. Things aren't looking good. They're going to tear the house down. Johnny and I are golfing out one day, and while we were talking, and I say to him, Johnny, something just hit me. He goes, what? I ain't going back in that house. And I say, no, listen, do you remember what we had, that light inside the kitchen? He said, yeah. I said, did you notice on the air conditioning vents there was no blood? And all the way around it was the most perfect area where there was no blood. Yeah, that was weird. What do you think that means? I say, I don't know. I know that's a false ceiling. When they built those houses, they didn't have air conditioning. So they built a false ceiling between the air conditioning unit and the real ceiling. He goes, but what do you think is in there? I don't know. We ought to go in there and take a look. He goes, I'm not going back in there. I say, Johnny, come on, what are you afraid of? He says, dude, I ain't going in there. Look, we got cops that do search and rescue and all that stuff. I'll tell the captain, and if he approves, they'll go in there. All right, so They build scaffolding, okay? They build it underneath this area that you can get into. And these two guys that were with the El Paso Police Department go up in there and they go to the left. We can hear them crawling around, and we were just talking. Well, those two ducks were 2 by 2 feet. So a while goes by. Johnny and I are talking and talking, and we're getting bored. And I say to Johnny, you know, Johnny, no one went to the right. He says, I ain't going. I say, all right, I'll go in. No, you're not. I'm going. I say, you got that little flashlight, so let me use it. He goes, your lucky day. I just put fresh batteries into them. Okay. I turn on this little light and I crawl up the scaffolding and pull myself through, and I go right. So I go about 10 feet and then I turn on the right. So I figured I've gone this far, why not go further? Finally I get halfway there and click, flashlight goes out. Just like that. Oh, I'm hitting it. Nothing. Alright. Well, now I'm out of the flashlight. I can't see. Need to back out. As I start backing out, I notice a glow of shimmer coming from the corner. That stuff was all aluminum and all I could see was shimmer. And I thought, what is that? So I crawled that way because I can see this little glow. I figure if I don't see anything, I'll be back out of there. So I crawl a little further and I get to the corner and I look all the way down. This duct goes all the way down to the front of the house. About 10 yards in, this is recessed area where the heating and air conditioning units sat, blew the hot and cold air out. And the shimmer was coming from back there. So I have to crawl, I don't know, about 8 or more yards to see what the glow was. So I crawl a little bit more and a little bit more, and when I peek into the recessed area, the first thing I see is a little pair of barefoot feet, and the feet move, and I'm going to be the fastest fat man that ever crawled out of an air duct, being that brave man that I'm not. But I had to see, I had to look, and I look, and sitting there is Kimberly. She was holding a candle that was causing the glow. She looked bad. She was dirty. She had a long white nightgown on. She had blood on her. She was holding that candle, and when she looked up and saw me, I say, Kimberly, how did you get in here? And she goes, shh, they're here. I say, who's there? The ones that live in the walls. I say, honey, there's no one here. She goes, listen, they're here. I'm listening and looking around, and I say, I can't see anything. You need to come out of there. So she follows me out. You should have seen Johnny's eyes when I lowered her down onto the scaffolding. He was like, whoa. He whistled, and the other cops come on out. Well, they arrest Kimberly, and they have to take her downtown. So some time goes by, and they have to take her to court. And they're having a hard time finding an impartial jury because everyone's heard about this in El Paso. So they're going to change the venues and go to New Mexico or Arizona. It ends up being Arizona. Since I was going back and forth from there to Arizona, I ended up falling in love with it down there, and I moved there. Well, the case isn't too good, and they can't seem to find anything on her, and I tell Johnny, well, whatever is going on in that house, whatever is going on, it's going on in that house. He goes, yeah, there's something about that house. He goes, you think you believe in something? I say, no, I just think that there's something happening in that house. I think it's unexplainable. I think it's explainable. He goes, what do you want to do? I don't know. Now remember, this is early 1980s. And I say, don't you have one of those cameras that can hook up inside of a house or a room and see what's going on? He goes, yeah. I say, why don't you hook cameras up in that house and see what's going on? He goes, I haven't thought of that, but whatever's happening, it's happening to Kimberly. I went, yeah, that's true. We both look at each other, and he goes, there's no way they're going to let me put Kimberly back in that house. I say, well, whatever's happening is... Oh, I just reread that. Whoops. And if you guys put cameras in that room, you can watch everything that's going on in the house and monitor it. Well, he goes and talks to the captain. The captain comes back and says, you've got 1 week. I'll put her back in that house for 1 week. We'll have a couple of officers monitor it, and if nothing happens, we'll go back into trial. Well, they go and put cameras in every single room in that house. Kimberly's bedroom, the stairway, the hallway, everything's monitored and watched. They take a van and park it 2 houses down in the abandoned old house. We had 2 officers sitting there watching what's going on. I don't know. 3 or 4 days go by, and Johnny and his wife come by for dinner. And Johnny and I are talking. I asked him, Johnny, is anything happening? No, not a thing. I say, well, do you want to go back? Do you want to go down there and relieve them a little bit later? Take your wife home. We'll head down there and watch. It would be interesting. He said, yeah, El Paso is really windy, and this is a very windy night. So we take my truck and we drive down there, down to Fabens and into this area. It's really dark. Like I said, all these houses are abandoned. We drive to Kimberly's house and pull up next to the van. Of course, the officers saw us and they came out and said, hey, you guys want a late dinner or something? We'd like to watch this a while. And they say, yeah, thanks. Just take my truck and come back in a couple of hours. So we're inside the van, and there's no windows except for the windshield and 2 passenger windows. It's a large van. There were 12 monitors throughout it and a single monitor in the middle. This technology was so new. It was all black and white. It was all in black and white. I sit down, and Johnny sits in the back, and we both start checking out the monitors. Monitor 1 was Kimberly's room, and she's laying there asleep. And you could see her whole house. So we're looking, and I say, Johnny, what are all these papers here? And he says, well, anytime a police officer sees anything, they have to write it down. 8:55, Kimberly gets up, walks around the house. They just wrote it all down. So I'm flipping through mine and looking at it and looking at it. Of course, Johnny is reading his out loud, and he says something about a dog. What did you say about a dog? Well, the dog that sleeps under her bed or something like that. And I go, there ain't a dog in that house. We've been in it. It says there's a dog under the bed. What does it say? It says she goes down to fall asleep, and the dog licks her hand. I said, oh, come on, I swear. As a matter of fact, it says it right here again. And he found it in like 3 or 4 places. And I asked him, can you capture that? Or can you get that? Can you rerun that? Or can we see that again? And he says, yeah. He punches the time, date, and hours, so he gets the tape and plays it. And he plays it. And says, watch carefully. So I'm looking at this monitor, and sure enough, we see Kimberly walking into her room. She sits on her bed. She lays down. She hangs her hand down the side of her bed, and a dog comes out and licks her hand. Johnny said, see? No. Something ain't right about that. Can you do that in slow motion? He reminds it in slow motion. I say, look at the eyes of that dog, Johnny. He goes, what do you mean? Look at the eyes. What about them? Look at the eyes. They look like human eyes. They got white all around them. I mean, dogs have white on their eyes, but they're way in the back. You can't see that. Johnny says, that's a raccoon. Or, that's a dog. And they say, no, it's not. Well, maybe it's a raccoon. It ain't no raccoon, Johnny. Well, what do you think it is? I don't know. And then we played it back again. And when it licked her hand, I said, look at the tongue. The tongue that licked her hand looked like this weird sharp tongue. I don't know. I can't explain it. It was tough to see. And we're looking at that and replaying it and watching it. And then I look to the monitors and say, whoa, Johnny, she's up. He hits the button. The monitor comes up. She gets up, walks around the corner, and where the camera was up top, and she starts staring at it. Johnny goes, she's looking at the cameraman. She's not. How could she see it? This is where I take over. Okay. Kimberly is staring directly into the hidden camera, and she yells, they live in the walls. And right then, everything shuts off. They lose all feeds of the cameras, just static. Johnny starts to freak out, trying to figure out what it is and what is going on. About 30 seconds go by, and they're still getting nothing. Just then, there's this loud bang, and the entire van shakes violently, like a huge truck just sideswiped us. However, it's just rocks. So Johnny and Hermansky start looking out the front window. There are only 3 windows in the van. The front driver passenger side, but they don't see anything. Johnny turns from the driver's side. Here, hold on. Johnny turns from the driver's side to the back and to tell it something, but he freezes. Hermansky asks him what is wrong, but doesn't have to wait for an answer. Hermansky turns around and sees Kimberly sitting right behind him. Kimberly lets out a blood-curdling scream and leaps on Herminsky. During the struggle, she bites on his right hand, taking a huge chunk of it. After the interview was over, he showed me his hand, and there was a perfect chunk of skin missing in the shape of a mouth. Now, what's even scarier is that she was like 98 pounds or something, and this teacher was so much bigger. But the two of them could not get Kimberly off of him. After they did, Johnny handcuffs her, and they open up the back doors and set her on the ground outside the van. While Herminsky is trying to deal with his hand, Johnny suddenly realizes that all the doors of the vans were locked when she got in. He had to unlock the back doors to set her outside. Herminsky had no idea what was going on. They looked down, and Kimberly's hissing, sliding around on the ground like a snake. The police come and pick her up, and the chief has had enough, saying that he doesn't want any more investigations going on until he okays it. Herminsky and Johnny are okay with that for now. I forget what happens next, sort of, but Herminsky started investigating the area where Kimberly's home was by looking at old maps from decades and centuries earlier. He finds out that there was once an old Spanish mission right near her house. So he takes the map to a friend and enlarges the older map and the current map with the location of Kimberly's house on it. He lines them up on top of each other, placing each map with Kimberly's house on top. And then he puts a knife or a needle on something through both of them, exactly where her house is. Then he removes the top map. He is surprised to see that Kimberly's house is now where the same Spanish mission used to be over 150 years ago. So he tells Johnny this, and somehow manages to convince him to go back to the house again. This time they go back during the day. However, even during the day, he said it still scared the hell out of him. Looking around the house, they don't find much out of place, but Herminsky wants to search upstairs, where the sergeant field went missing. They go upstairs to Kimberly's room. The first place Johnny looks is under the bed, but there is no dog. However, when they push the bed back, they find long hair, much longer than any dog, and there's a lot of it. While Johnny is looking at the hair, Herminsky is snooping around near the back wall, where there's a fireplace nearby. The wall is made of brick, nothing too out of the ordinary, but something tells Herminsky to look closer. When he does, he realizes that some of the bricks look oddly shaped. He feels them, and they don't feel real, like they are secured down with mortar. He pulls on one. Sure enough, it comes right out. He shows Johnny and starts pulling out, and they start pulling out as many bricks as they can. And when they are done, there's a small gap about 3 feet wide and 5 feet high, which opens up to space in between the inner wall and the outer wall of the home. Like Herminsky said, when the home was built, they built an inner and outer wall for insulation, and there is a gap of 3 feet between all exterior walls of the home. So Herminsky and Johnny are contemplating whether or not to go in. Ed wants to and asks for a flashlight. Johnny hands him one. Ed heads in the gap, during which time he recalls that what Kimberly was always saying, they live in the walls. He goes about 10 feet, getting closer and closer to the fireplace. He can see the bricks of it up ahead. Before he reaches through, something on the ground catches his eye, a pen. He picks it up and looks at it. It reads El Paso Police Department. Right next to that is the missing sergeant's name. He never said the man's name. He is about to get up to tell Johnny when something else grabs his eye. About a foot in front of him, there's a hole on the ground in what he's walking on, which is 3 feet wide on all sides, and it's next to the side of the fireplace. I have drawn a small sketch to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So Herminsky shines his flashlight into the hole, but he can't seem to see the bottom. They're only on the 3rd floor, but he can't see anything. He pulls a coin from his pocket and drops it, but doesn't hear it land. He gets out of the crawl space and shows his pen to Johnny. If I can remember right, they don't yet want to show what they found on the chief case. On the chief, because they weren't supposed to be snooping around in here. So they don't want to get in trouble until it's worth it. So Johnny tells Ed that he has a friend who's into spelunking, rock climbing, to those who don't know what that is. The house is scheduled to be demolished in the next morning, so they get the guy out ASAP. He brings a lot of gear, a helmet, and an attached flashlight, and around 500 feet of rope that shows a different color every 10 feet, so the people that are holding it can know how far the climber has gone, and so forth. The buddy gives them some quick instructions on what to do, and when he's being lowered down, they secure the line and he starts going down. Johnny thinks that he'll end up stopping on the first floor because because this house doesn't have a basement. However, after the rope line reaches 45 feet, Johnny knows that this problem is it just got a lot bigger. The rope reaches 100 feet, 200 feet, 300. It finally stops at 350. Herminsky is wigging out, realizing that there is a hole that goes 350 feet down somewhere in this house, and more than likely, the surgeon is down there, dead. Now, their buddy has been down where the rope has been stopped for some time, and they haven't seen any motion. After a few more minutes, Johnny starts calling for him, but the guy doesn't answer. So they start to pull the rope back up, which is significantly lighter than they thought. When they pull it up, there's a wet substance on it. Johnny pulls the flashlight, and to their horror, it is covered in blood. The end of the rope is completely chewed. This is repelling rope, and it didn't snap. If someone cut it, it would have been a cleaner cut. No, this looked like something just bit into it and didn't let go until the man on the end was free of rope. This time, Johnny and Herminsky decided to go to the chief. Okay, I need water. Okay. That incident, the city goes through with the demolition. The house is destroyed and the hole is sealed. Before they seal it up, I believe Herminsky said that the National Geographic came and they did a special on what was below. Turns out that there were very, very old caverns down there, but they weren't natural. They were man-made, and there were thousands upon thousands of smaller caves in different directions. No bodies were found there. The police sealed the hole at the top with cement. So some time goes by, and like I stated earlier, the trial is moved to Phoenix, Arizona. Kimberly is found guilty of her parents' murders and sentenced to life in a special women's prison. Herminsky ended up moving to Phoenix and starts teaching there. If you think this is the end, it's not. After a year or so of Kimberly being locked up, she escapes. For some time, she was thought to be too violent to have a cellmate, so they left her alone in her own cell. She wouldn't eat anything and always asked for raw meat. After a year, she showed signs of improvements and asked for a cellmate, saying she was lonely. They gave her a cellmate. Next morning at bed check, the guard saw the new cellmate was still in her bed, but something wasn't right. The sheets were red, blood red. The guard lifts up the sheets and gags. The cellmate's stomach and chest had been ripped open, and all the innards have been taken. Inside the body is one long black hair, much like the hair that Herminsky and Johnny found under Kimberly's bed. And the cellmate was murdered exactly the same way as Kimberly's parents were. Then two the guards' horror, Kimberly was gone. He looks around and finds that there is a hole in the wall. One of the large bricks had been taken out. Upon further investigations, guards found that something made the hole from the outside. Kimberly didn't do it, something else did, and whatever did it was digging with claws, not hands. I believe that by this time it was 1985 or 86. Kimberly had never been found, but there had been dozens of sightings of her. For years, Edward Herminsky has been telling this story to his new students, and every time he does, something really strange happens. One year, at a school-sponsored sleepover in the gym, someone yelled out Kimberly, and then all the power went out. Everyone thought it was a prank until Herminsky was told that by his wife that the very same night the power went out in their home. He called up to the electric company and they said that they had a power outage that night, but only in 2 places, the high school and his home. But the thing that scares me the most is what happened 3 years after Kimberly's escape. An entire family was murdered in the exact same style and manner as Kimberly's family in their home on the corner of Lindsay and Elliott and Gilbert in Arizona. The family had a maid that was told to look exactly like Kimberly. During this interview, I was living in my parents' home, which was only 2 blocks from where this supposed murder took place. I started snooping around and went to the police station to see if that crime really took place. It took them 2 weeks to get back to me, but for $5 I was given gold. I was given the police report, crime scene photos, evidence, log, everything. And this is when I was convinced that this was all real. The photos were gruesome. The bodies of the family members were cut just like the Herminsky had stated. When I started to tell my friends about it, we all started to get a little freaked out because this house was literally less than 1/8 of a mile from where I lived. Granted, it was 16 years prior, but the fact that she is still out there scares me to death. And what also scares me to death is the fact that the police information that I was given is gone. I had a safe in my room that my dad gave to me when I was 14, and that was one of those fireproof safes. Anyway, I put the police information in there one night, locked it up, and the next day it was gone. I was never able to find it, so I went back to the police station to get another copy, and the lady said that they couldn't find any records of the crime I was talking about, even though I was in there 3 weeks earlier and they found a crap load of records for me. Well, there you have it, guys. What do you think?
Whoa.
I'm so tired.
Correct.
No.
2 out of 10.
Hi, friends.
Oh my god, no.
And that was a pain. I mispronounced a lot of words.
I hear that voice, I want to kill myself.
It, like, in the beginning when you were reading, everybody was talking, and then it gradually just began.
Yeah,
I-
I ignored at least like half of that story, so.
I don't really care, Zach.
I've been playing Minecraft for this entire time, so.
It's spooky, though.
I feel like I'm gonna lose my voice. That
Rachel,
sucked.
the amount of times Rachel stuttered during that was amazing.
Well, yeah, I can't expect you not to.
Were you like a special
I'm not
kid?
perfect, Zach.
Yeah, but are you retarded?
No. Like, I had to be quiet, and then my brother was like walking up and down the stairs, and I was like, ugh. That wasn't as fun as I thought it would be.
No, I didn't enjoy that one bit.
No one asked you, Zach.
You don't have to ask. You're lucky to hear my opinion at all.
I don't want to hear your opinion.
I'll just take my
Thanks,
business
Rod.
elsewhere then.
Sorry, I'm really bad at reading. I mean, it was relatively spooky. I mean, like, I know where it took place. Like,
I think Jared appearing was scarier.
I'm back, and that was a pretty good story.
I heard you talking smack about me.
Me?
Not Zach. I heard something.
Okay.
I couldn't hear it all, but I heard something.